we are committed to the security partnership with our Panamanian friends. It's one that will grow.
Mixed signals coming from the Trump administration after Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth announced a security deal with Panamanian officials in Panama City. The visit comes after President Trump asked the Pentagon to develop plans for possible military intervention to keep canal operations neutral. But just days after getting back on U.S. soil, Hegseth was singing a slightly different tune on Fox News.
China has too much influence over the Panama Canal, and America's going to take it back. And that's exactly what I was charged to do, what we're continuing to do.
As a part of the security agreement, U.S. troops will be deployed to the region and take part in ongoing joint training exercises with Panamanian security forces. Hegseth also announcing a deal to allow U.S. military ships to pass through the canal first and free, although Panama Canal Authority Chairman Jose Ramon Icaza told reporters the agency would charge the U.S. military a neutral cost.
And we will continue to work through the exact details with them, but the framework is clear, that we will work inside their constitution, inside their Panama Canal Authority to make sure it's done legally and properly, and that neutrality is respected in that context.
But Panama's public security minister, Frank Abrego, said the U.S. would not be allowed to establish permanent military bases. Talk of taking back the canal has been a key component of President Trump's campaign and his second term in the White House.
China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
Euclides Tapia, professor of international relations at the University of Panama, says giving preferential treatment to the U.S. military could ease tensions.
The solution could be if you don't charge the fees for the military to pass through.
But the millions of dollars in passage fees paid by the Navy is just one part of the issue. According to a Wall Street Journal report, military intelligence under the Biden administration found at least 5 sites near the canal which China could use for military purposes. Tapia says he doesn't know whether there are sites, but that China could do more through cyber attacks.
China doesn't need to have nuclear bases in Panama to do that.
Still, Tapia has concerns about China's presence in the region, including the Confucius Institute on the university campus, which he called a propaganda outlet. Leland Lazarus, an expert on China-Latin America relations and professor at Florida International University, says while U.S. investment in Latin America remains substantial, it has been dwindling.
There's been a real concern certainly over the past decade, that the U.S. government hasn't prioritized Latin America and the Caribbean.
Lazarus says while U.S. investment is largely through financial services like banking, China's investments in Latin America have increased in recent years, from commodities like grain and soybeans to physical infrastructure.
What they see is a Chinese-built library in El Salvador, right? Or a Chinese-built port in Peru, right? Or a Chinese-built north-south highway in Jamaica. And that's physical, and you can actually see it, and it creates this perception that the Chinese have shown up where the U.S. hasn't been so much over the past decade.
Hong Kong-based C.K. Hutchison, which operates ports at both ends of the canal, is one firm in the spotlight. But those operations are now a part of a pending sale to U.S.-based conglomerate BlackRock. China, however, has pushed back, saying the deal should be subject to its own regulatory approval. And while some Chinese infrastructure projects along the canal have either been canceled or stalled for the moment, and some Chinese businesses are pulling out of their operations, like here along the port, security concerns still exist.
For any civil work surrounding the Panama Canal, there will always be risk associated.
Officials with the Panama Canal Authority say they work with the Panamanian government to ensure contractors from all nations meet security standards.
Will this risk be related to a more aggressive position by these entities? It's yet to be determined.
Retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Benjamin Frakley, a professor at Arizona State University, says China's growing influence in Latin America should be concerning.
For all that matters to all the people in Latin and South America, Chinese are not doing anything for the good of man. They're operating for the good of China, in particular the People's Liberation Army and the Chinese Communist Party of China.
Roberto Montañez, president of the Center for Strategic Studies, an organization dedicated to strengthening ties between Panama and Asian countries, said China isn't concerned with influencing canal operations. He supports stronger relations with China.
We have to be China's friend. China never invalidated Panama. We are invalidated by the United States.
China fired back after Hegseth's visit, releasing a statement saying, quote, "Who represents the real threat to the canal? People will make their own judgment." Hegseth said he's not concerned about China taking aggressive actions.
I'm not worried about retaliation from China. We will stand on our own merits. Peace through strength matters.
Leaders from across Panama say one way to address concerns of Chinese influence is for the U.S. to increase its investment in the Latin American nation. I'm Eddie McCoven reporting.